Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/slash Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, the financial cost of denial, a tale of networking woes. It's the little things. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. The financial cost of denial, a tale of networking woes. I work for a large healthcare equipment manufacturer as a network engineer. My job is largely helping to integrate our equipment into the hospital network to allow communication. Because our equipment is regulated by the FDA, most of our policies and procedures are outdated and incredibly insecure. As such, most of my time is apologizing for our policies and helping to find more secure ways to isolate our equipment. However, when a hospital seems to be experiencing a network problem, I often get calls to assist in troubleshooting. Now, for a large chunk of our customers, we provide switches to provide an isolated environment for our equipment that we maintain, but for customers that don't want the added cost or added rack space, we also allow them to connect our equipment to their network directly, provided that A, we validate that the network meets our specs, and B, they assume responsibility for any issue with their network. Of course, the problem with this is that, like all good network engineers know, it's not the network. It's never the network. But unfortunately, this time it definitely was. The start of our tale. Our story starts Friday morning at 11:30. One of my field engineers contacts me to let me know that he had received reports from a local hospital that their equipment had gone down. This particular hospital had our equipment directly connected to their network, and this issue had occurred previously. The last time I had driven the 3 hours to the site, spent hours troubleshooting our equipment only to receive a call the next morning to check if things were working now and everything to come up. This time I was far too busy to drop everything and head off to the site, so I asked my coworker to move one of the non-working pieces of equipment to the same switch as the controller it was supposed to register to and see if it connected. If the connection worked, it stood to reason that the issue resided on the only part removed, the hospital network. Later that evening, as I was headed out with the wife to a friend's house, I got a call from my coworker saying that he had done this, but had only been able to get a hold of the hospital on-call network admin as the on-site contact had left at 4 with things to do. Unfortunately, 15 minutes into talking to the on-call person and trying to explain how the issue clearly resided on their network, we were cut off because she had another issue to deal with, and I can clearly ping all of the switches. Asterisk, a dangerous situation star. A brief aside here, this equipment is not some low priority value adding equipment. People's lives are attached to the operation of this equipment, and this outage was putting multiple people at risk. We learn early on to take these kinds of issues extremely seriously, as a fault of our equipment that we ignore can leave us potentially personally liable. As such, my coworker spent every minute he could on Saturday and Sunday trying to get the attention of someone in the IT organization to take this outage seriously. Finally, Sunday night, someone finally checked their messages, or the right ear got shouted in, and the issue became priority 1. A bridge line was put together and the IT team was engaged, but as this was now a hot issue, no one wanted to take the blame. This was clearly an issue with the vendor's equipment, and they needed to stop blaming their network. I did my best to show that our equipment was working properly when isolated from the network, and requested packet captures to be able to pinpoint the source of the issue. I mentioned that this behavior I was seeing felt very much like some bizarre behavior with the connections between the switches. For the more technical, I specifically felt like this was something with the ether channel that connected the edge switches with two 10 gig fiber lines back to their cores. This issue was shot down with an insistence that we troubleshoot first one then the next piece of our equipment and run in circles, until I was forced to drop off the call around 10 p.m. A long and frustrating night. The next day I was occupied with other work, but about 9 p.m. I get a call from my coworker on site asking to join the call again, as we have escalated this internally to our company, and a second field engineer had been sent on site. Once again I ask for packet captures to test my theory and once again get shot down. I spend 7 hours on the phone doing everything I can, and finally get them to span the ports that I need and send me the packet capture. In it, things look strange indeed. The registration packet of the device is indeed arriving at our controller, only to be ignored. This is beyond nuts to me, and I briefly lose confidence that this is actually their network. We start swapping equipment around and bring in new equipment, and yet no matter what we see the same effect, but only if the equipment is connected through their network. If it's moved to the same switch, it connects immediately, once again pointing back to the hospital network. Finally, at 5 a.m. I drop off the call, needing to be on site at a different project early the next day, but troubleshooting continues through the night. Another field engineer is sent on site to help, and 2 more escalation people are brought in to troubleshoot. The same troubleshooting steps get repeated over and over again in escalation hell, and each time it points to the hospital network, but the network team has dug in their heels. Anger begins to boil over. The next day I join the call around 10 a.m. We are berated by person after person from hospital IT for insisting this issue resided on their network. They are insisting on alternative equipment be shipped out right away, which we do, and complain that next flight out isn't fast enough. We are called incompetent and are told that we were not treating this issue with the severity it deserved. To the credit of my team, we kept our comments civil, and our accusations on mute at least, despite many of us having been working on the issue for most of the past few days, giving up lots of personal time and sleep. I end up being mostly redundant at this point, and since I have nothing much to contribute to the call, I end up dropping off around 10 p.m. to try and get some sleep. Asterisk a bizarre answer star. The next day I get a request from my boss to join an internal call around 11 a.m. This issue has escalated to the point that one of our coders has taken a look at the packet capture and noticed something. With the data portion of the packet, the device's MAC address and IP address are included, but the IP address portion of the data has been changed from 10.x.x.x to 11.x.x.x. This suddenly explains why our system isn't responding to it. The address is completely incorrect now. Of course, we don't know what is changing this packet, but we have solid proof now that this is not a fault with our equipment. We jump back on the call and present our findings. Sunk cost behavior. Now, of course, this is day 6 of a major outage. Additional staff have been forced to work long shifts on the clinical side to deal with this situation, and every executive has been on this call screaming for a solution. Hospital IT has been standing their ground this whole time that this issue is not on their network, so their response is to argue, to obstruct, and try to disprove this new info, going so far as to accuse us of making this up. New packet captures are made, different pieces of equipment are removed and added, and still the same result. I once again interject that this feels very much like an ether channel issue, and that it had been mentioned to be related to that previously. The lead network engineer of the hospital nearly lost his voice shouting me down that unless I had concrete proof, I wasn't to bring up ether channels again. Finally, we were able to convince them to get a capture of each hop from each side of the connection, working our way down the line. Finally, we see it. A capture shows that between the core and the switch that has the controller, the data in the packet is changed. Someone else internal asks us to take this down to a single connection to see if this resolves the issue, and after one last smoke screen from the hospital IT claiming that the information is changed even in the functioning device, a claim very easily and quickly shot down, they begrudgingly agree to take down one of the legs of the ether channel. OHSH*T. After a brief issue with the ether channel breaking the connection entirely, finally one leg is taken down. Almost immediately, a huge chunk of the down network comes back. Everything starts to work, and those that were still having issues are able to be restored by breaking a leg on the switch ether channel. Suddenly, hospital IT has become very quiet. I'm listening in on the call on mute, shouting abuse and laughing like a madman in my car as I am driving. Text messages between my coworkers are flying, laughing at the sudden cooperation we are being offered, as IT states they will have to open a ticket with their network vendor to find a root cause. After almost a week of critical outage time, the issue has been resolved by the very thing I had mentioned to them on the first day of the outage. Now, to be 100% fair, this is a very ridiculous thing to happen. As one of my coworkers mentioned, this is like writing a letter, addressing it, and when it gets to its destination, still perfectly sealed, the contents of that letter are different. It shouldn't happen, and it really doesn't make a lot of sense, but after spending days being treated like a liar and a dunce, being right felt really, really good. The fallout. Now during this call, a lot of big wigs at my company had been listening in, and they were very unhappy with the way our team had been treated. All of my team received instructions to make sure to log every possible minute of our time that we had spent working on this issue within the day. See, this customer had not paid for a support contract with us. Normally, for a customer outage like this, we will usually ignore that to try and bring the system up, preferring happy customers, but in a wonderful foresight, the coworker who had gone on site the first day had made sure to get a PO for this support call. The higher-ups had paid for rush shipping, couriers, and nearly 12 resources on site or on remote support to appease this customer, only to have the fault be exactly what had been communicated to them on the first day. A call was put together and a full timeline was worked up. None of it looked good for the customer's IT team. In the heat of the outage, the hospital big wigs had requested my company management team come for an on-site meeting to discuss this issue, likely thinking that they would be able to squeeze out some favors and financial benefits from the fiasco, and now our execs were looking at handing over what will likely be a 5 or 6 figure bill. Meanwhile, at the hospital, it was clear that IT was hoping to do damage control. They threw a thank you party for their network team for finding the issue, but our team made sure that the full story was given to the clinical team. We got a very awesome thank you from the nurses later that day. In the end, we got a lot of praise from our bosses, and we all felt good having actually found the root of this issue, something that may save us a lot of time in other similar situations down the road. For my coworkers, their paychecks are going to look really nice with all the overtime they were able to squeeze in, though unfortunately as a salary man I can't say the same. I definitely hope to hear what the vendor says was actually changing the data, as it's a crazy bug, but in the end I think we were all too tired to really appreciate the sheer train wreck beauty of this, so I felt I had to bring it to Reddit. It's the little things. Quick first story as a fellow techie new to this sub. So I worked for an organization that is contracted to several others for IT management and related services. Our contracts consist of multiple healthcare organizations, a few big-name enterprise organizations, as well as a few local contracts for school districts and such. The hospital contracts are by far the biggest, most frustrating, and most volatile when it comes to the types of characters we get on the inbound lines, and this short story is from one of those healthcare organizations, but it isn't anything irritating, really, a shock to me lol. $me, hello and thank you for calling service desk. My name is Uranara. Can I start by getting your name and callback number please? $user, oh my gosh, Hello? Yeah, hi, I am freaking out. I was working on a document since this morning and Word froze up then quit, and I lost everything I was working on. The last time this happened I was able to go back into Word, and it asked me if I would like to open my recent unsaved document, but this time it didn't ask me that, and there is nothing on it. I cannot lose hours of work. $me, in my head, so, you didn't learn your lesson and save the file after it happened for the first time. This should be fun. $me, oh no. That isn't good at all. Go ahead and open up Quick Assist, so I can get connected to you and help you with this issue. Gets connected to user, and sees the almost 30 PG document template she was working on blank. $user, do you see how much information is supposed to go on these forms? I cannot lose all of that, it would take me hours to finish it. User continues to press how important it is to her that this document has all her content on it, while I go to pull up the unsaved document in MS Word's brilliant feature called Recover Unsaved Document star. 30 PG document shows up on her screen, completely filled out. $me, is this it? $user, oh my, sniffles asterisk. You don't know how much you made my day, thank ** full on bursts out crying and blowing snot bubbles into the receiver star. I tell this story every time people ask me if I liked working helpdesk, because nobody really wants to do grunt work. But it's the little things like these kind of users that remind me that what I was doing did have a direct effect on the daily lives of others and makes it slightly easier to bear for the time being. Study, get certified, get enough groundwork BC it's needed, and tfot.